The news is live on Joy 99.7 FM here in Accra, Love 99.5 FM in Kumasi, and affiliates across the 16 regions of Ghana, including Radio Max in Takrady, ATL FM in Cape Coast, Swiss FM in Ho, and Radio Somali in Wa. You can also download the My Joy Online app from Play Store and App Store to listen live wherever you are in the world. In this edition, one dead and several others in critical condition after head-on collision involving a fuel tanker and two passenger vehicles on the Tema motorway.
The meantime na be 5:30 here ambulance free ambulance driver bi aye ama basis is afra ya yimu ka say 5 cents no dey omo buy na che say ya ambulance ya tumi asoba bi yi nyimpa no na.
We have details as eyewitnesses lament more than 2-hour delay in arrival of first respondents at the scene. Also,
June 4th belonged to the whole country. June 4th meant so much to all of us.
June 4 without Jerry John Rawlings, but opposition NDC vows to continue commemorating the day to preserve his legacy.
What Jerry Rawlings started cannot be quenched. He has sowed a seed. He has lighted a flame that cannot be quenched under any circumstances.
Meanwhile, former President Mahama says Ghana's economy and democracy are in dire straits 42 years after the uprising. Joy News gets green light to broadcast documentary on former FDA lawyers' alleged negotiation of bribes.
Then she said, oh, 200,000 Ghana cedis is too small. Make it $100,000. I said, okay.
I did this as a test. You see, you said you're bringing her 500 and bringing me the same, but you brought different amounts. So I was testing your honesty.
I have details from the court in sports.
The Black Meteors friendly against Japan will come off despite one player in the Ghana Cup testing positive for COVID-19. Plus, there is a contract extension at Chelsea. We'll bring you the details later. And later, we ask what makes some women want to date other people's husbands.
If they are hitting their 30s and above and they feel like, oh, I'm not getting married, then I'd rather go and chase a married man.
We say it in the local parlance there, aware oyinyuminyam. So people want part of that wonderful life that you now have. You find families pushing their daughters to date married men.
We'll tell you more, plus celebrate Trigmatic here on the Midday News with me, Emefa Apau. And this afternoon, one person has died with several others in critical condition after a Tema-bound fuel tanker veered into the Accra-bound lane of the motorway, crashing into two oncoming vehicles. The tanker driver lost control while attempting to dodge a vehicle which has suddenly exited a branch road onto the motorway, few meters from the Ashaman overhead bridge. For more than 2 hours, as rescue efforts were made by other road users, emergency response was absent. We'll hear from eyewitnesses who by themselves elected to rescue the victims while they waited for help. First, here's driver of a Sprinter bus, one of the vehicles involved, narrating what happened.
Oh, na me ba no na enso epiti kakra enti dem me do bridge me say trailer no ase o twa ne ho enti no trailer we o ya ba yen kwam enti me ye ready man enti dem say head no atra gota no na trailer no abufa so.
There were little showers, but the trailer veered off into our road. I had to dodge it. The car behind me couldn't and crashed into the trailer. We all had to get down and try to help retrieve the injured persons.
I'm a full set. Okay. And I'm a full way. And the OBS here. And it's a 4 grad team, 4 minutes in the car. And then I see go on. And the Sena Nipana Adnayan. Yet me Pia gate a mere Nipana front and me piano and I fena and cover a PP ever and I'm one.
That's the driver of a Sprinter bus, one of the vehicles involved in that accident, narrating what happened. We can now listen to Emmanuel Amoa and Michael Asari, who led the rescue efforts at the scene.
No can cement and a jump in a Nutunade. It's in a call, different road, no car. Nekesha Canada to spot in the Nipa Bakuya day. We Kafnu somewhere, Omo inside normal paper. The meantime, na 5:30 here, ambulance free.
One person died on the spot with others suffering severe injuries. At 5:30, we called the ambulance several times. They did not come, together with the fire service. By the time they came, we had struggled to retrieve the injured persons from the car. We had to use a hammer to cut parts of the car to retrieve the driver.
Company ya dey bo and say you to me driver and say two now over front. They say you want back on nasin nyina aye dey ebubu. Na back no so on the side na dey why nyame dey.
Na muyi no na we would that. We first accident in see no. Yes struggle be no onwe. Just pass we pra. Be no onwe. Anka the sports no fire service can it me by nipa no ohome more than 1 hour.
The person who is now dead would have survived if the ambulance and fire service came in early.
That's Emmanuel Amo and Michael Asare there. They led the rescue mission there. My colleague Manuel Cranting has also been following that story for us. He joins us from the Tema General Hospital where the victims are currently on admission. Manuel, how many people exactly are on admission at the hospital now and what's their status?
Well, Amefa, we know that 7 people after the accident were transported to the Tema General Hospital. One of them were told by the doctors arrived dead. The 6 of them were learning. 3 of them are stable, while 3 of them are in critical condition. I think the driver's mate in the tanker, and we're learning that he's having some fractures in his pelvis and then also some fractures on one of the passenger's legs. And so they are being attended to. Doctors tell us that they are working around the clock to keep them stable, MFA.
And those you've been interacting with make reference to a sudden entry by one vehicle which might have caused the accident. Have there been any arrests yet?
Well, MFA, sources at the Community 11 police station tell me that one person has been arrested, most probably the driver of that vehicle that made a sudden entry onto the motorway. And you know that that particular stretch, the number of branch roads there, which, you'd have to struggle to gain access onto the main road. And that we're learning was the cause of the accident. So one person we're learning has been arrested, MFA.
And what are you learning about the prolonged delay in arrival of first respondents at the scene?
Well, MFA, we are told that there was over 5 kilometers of traffic that was caused because of the accident, and the first responders were having issues, navigating the road. But the eyewitnesses of the scene are not taking any of that. They tell me that for well over 2 hours after the incident occurred, first responders had not arrived at the scene, and it could not have taken just traffic for that much of delay.
That's my colleague Manuel Cranting there.
Safe driving saves lives. Drive safe.
It's a wet Friday morning. You ought to drive safe on the road, and it's time for our Drive Safe campaign. Every year, many Ghanaians are killed in road accidents, but very little is said of the thousands who are left with serious lifelong injuries, including broken spines. In our Drive Safe campaign, Joy News heard the story of a 24-year-old man who was struck and paralyzed by a hit-and-run driver. Judith Awachitando visited Joshua Kwache in his basement at Medina, and our reports.
Dreams shattered, hopes displaced, a life of constant pain and sadness. This is the story of 24-year-old Joshua Kwache. Joshua was not born with a disability, but on one night on the Legon-Medina highway, his life would change forever.
It's been 3 good years since he was knocked down by a hit-and-run driver, and since then he's been paralyzed and left indoors.
Joshua lives alone in a small rented room down the basement of the building. He spends most of his day moaning in pain. He's unable to move on his own or do anything without help. Sadly, the room in which he sleeps has no bathroom or toilet. Joshua has no other choice than to sleep in the same room with fecal matter and urine stored for weeks in buckets and bowls.
Every day I'm going through pain. It's very bad. I always cry, and all I do is to pray to God.
Getting food to eat is more than a hurdle for Joshua every day.
It's like, you know that you don't have, so you don't think about even food. When you have it, you eat it. When you don't have, you just live like the way you are.
An NGO called Wipe Your Tears Foundation has been helping Joshua for some weeks now. Although they have been able to provide some basic amenities such as food, his most pressing need, which is medical care, has been a big challenge for the organization. Nicholas Ayiba is founder of Wipe Your Tears Foundation.
The issue is that he had an accident and the spinal cord has been infected. So right now, they need to do a surgery. According to the doctors, we are looking for it to spend about 80,000, not Ghana cedis, euros. Yes, please.
Joshua's only wish is to be able to walk again. He's pleading with the public to help foot his medical bills.
I need help. Yes, financial help. I need money for my surgery and my hospital bills. Yeah, I really need money. I need help. Please, I need help.
Until help is offered, Joshua continues to struggle in constant pain. Judith Owatretando, Joy News.
June 4th belonged to the whole country. June 4th meant so much to all of us. While we're grateful that it's given birth to the PNDC and the NDC, people have cleaned and wiped and washed their ears, ready to hear some more booms today. We have let the rot in our countries and our continent go unchecked for so long.
Well, it's the 40th anniversary of the June 4 uprising today, but for the first time, the opposition NDC is marking the day without its founder, President Jerry John Rawlings, and of course, no booms today. In the years after, he used the June 4 platform mostly to criticize government and the political class. Here are excerpts of interesting statements he made on June 4 platforms before he passed. Well, you heard most of them before I started, but ahead of the 42nd celebration anniversary, Director of Elections for the NDC, Elvis Efiankra, says they will continue his legacy of honoring the day.
We take comfort in the fact that what Jerry Rawlings started cannot be quenched. He has sowed a seed. He has lighted a flame that cannot be quenched under any circumstances. And that is why today we have decided that we will continue to celebrate June 4th and we will continue to do that in perpetuity, because the principles of probity, integrity, accountability, and social justice that he espoused are more relevant today than even in June 4th. And we saw that before June 4th, in order to understand June 4th, you have to put it in the proper context. What was the state of the country, particularly for the younger generation? What was the state of the country before June 4th? The country was in a mess to the extent that when Jerry Rawlings burst on the scene and when he executed the generals, the first execution, can you believe that Ghanaians cheered? People were actually at the firing range asking for more blood.
Well, some supporters and national leadership of the NDC will converge at the party's national headquarters, defy the heavy downpour to commemorate the June 4 uprising. My colleague Kwesi Paka Wilson is there. He joins us on the line. Paka, what's the general mood at the party's headquarters?
It's a very sad atmosphere here at the party headquarters, and this is because it is clear and obvious that the leader of the revolution is not here today, and it's the excitement and the fact that accompanies the celebration is no more, that is missing from today's event. In fact, speakers after speakers who took their turn to speak actually have been making the point that indeed the range that we saw this morning is an indication that Rawlings is still with them.
And you've been speaking, there have been some speakers, and what have they been saying?
Well, largely they've talked about the ills of the society and have established in their own view that it is still relevant in our current dispensation. So, daughter of the former late president that I spoke to, Senator Rawlings, actually cautioned Ghanaians against making mistakes that could lead to a recurrence of another uprising.
Do we appreciate the fact that what led to the June 4th uprising was not just one man who got up and decided he was going to take over the reins of power, but there were circumstances that made that condition favorable. And we must be mindful of the fact that if we look across the continent and in the sub-region, they don't have the same level of stability that we have. But it looks as though we're taking it for granted, and we are somehow within our our democratic dispensation, we have managed to figure out ways to undermine the very foundations on which this republic is built. We have to be careful not to do that.
That's Zaneto Ajiman Rawlings there speaking to Kwesi Parker Wilson. Meanwhile, former President John Dramani Mahama in a statement also urged that Ghanaians must be allowed the freedom of thought and expression rather than a culture of hypocrisy and silence. Here are excerpts of his statement.
Ghana is a country with exceptional human talent. Time is ticking fast, and yet we can make things right if we work as one nation with a common destiny. As I have said in the past, broad consultations and consensus building does not take anything away from a leader. Broad consultations that bring the best and brightest together with stakeholders can forge consensus around issues such as economic recovery strategy or implementational challenges of free senior high school in the national interest. The values June 4 espoused some 4 decades ago remain as relevant today as ever before in our nation's democratic journey. June 4 engendered hope in our people that the ills of our society will be rooted out and replaced with values of virtue and honesty.
Extracts of a statement issued by former President John Mahama.
I will give them and handle people just because that they've resigned and they are coming to court. The first thing you said was, we won't let you win.
Sounds of the chaos that erupted at the entrance of the Law Court complex this morning. The Fix the Country protesters had attempted to enter the premises to monitor a case filed by the Ghana Police Service. As you know, the police are seeking to restrain them from embarking on a street protest to demand solutions from government on what they call worsening living conditions. My colleague Joseph Akable has just returned from the court with more. So Joseph, first, the protesters had attempted to walk to the court premises from the TUC. Did that happen?
No, and this is because they could not gain access to the TUC compound. When they got there, we actually visited the place as well. There are about 3 police vehicles there with some policemen stationed at the entrance, and so they were not allowed onto the premises. So some of them drove in various cars. Then when they got to the Law Court complex, they were told that they were not going to be allowed onto the compound. One of the leaders of the group has been explaining what exactly transpired at the entrance.
When we got to the gate, as soon as we got to the gate, of course, because of our T-shirts, they knew who we were. So they said, oh, Fix the Country, you can't come in. So we said, first they said, stand back. So we said, oh, okay. So we thought they just wanted to engage, and they said, you can't come in. Then we said, why can't we come in? They said, no, because you're not allowed in. They said, but we've been asked to come to court, so how can you tell us that we can't come in? So then I said, okay, I'm taking my phone out, I'm going to do a video. I want you to repeat what you just said on video. So I decided to do a Facebook Live. So while taking that video, and then he said, why are you? Then he took the phone, and of course you saw him trying to drag me. I was trying to get the phone out of my hands, and then just telling us that we can't come in, we need to get our lawyers. At that point, they realized, so that's basically what happened.
The judge did make it clear that if you do not have the conveners here in court, I will not sit on the case. So how do you stop us and insist that our representatives are in? And they manhandled her. How can you be pulling her and pushing her just because you wanted to claim her phone?
One of them actually had the audacity to say to me, if I wasn't working, you would have seen what I'll do to you. And the other ones were agreeing with him. This is people that we pay with our taxes, have the audacity to open their mouths and tell citizens that if I was not working, you would have known what I would do to you. So literally, this is what he did when there was cameras. It was in public.
Well, Joseph, you got to interact with the police also. What did they say?
The Director of Operations for the Accra Region Police, ACP Kwesi Fori, explains that it was because of the way the group members were coming into the court premises, the Law Court complex. That is how come the police had to intervene.
This is a court premises, and that people should not come en masse, and that individually they can come in to the court. But looking at the premises, the police are here, one, to provide adequate security for the court building and all the other courts therein. So, coming en masse with placards, flags, and other paraphernalia, among other things, may mar the beauty and ethics of the court. In view of this, my men on the ground decided, among other things, that they could leave those placards, they could leave the flags, and then also, limit that militancy and go to the court as individuals. So that was the position of the police.
Well, Joseph, on a substantive case, what are the issues and what transpired?
And so lawyers for the protesters say they have just instructed the lawyers to take over the matter for the first time, and they've now been given the documents that have been filed by the police service for that matter. And so they've asked for more time, and so they go back to court on June 14, where they are supposed to have arguments relating to whether they can be allowed to pour onto the street and stage that protest that they want to stage to demand better conditions of living.
Thank you very much. That's our court correspondent, Joseph Akable. And we'll stay a while longer in the court because Joy News has the green light to broadcast a documentary that uncovered negotiation of bribes by former head of legal affairs at the FDA, Cynthia Dapa Into. The documentary, titled Return Bribes, captures the voice of Madame Dapa Into requesting the manufacturer of a drug to pay 100,000 Ghana cedis to secure approval of the medicine. Here are excerpts.
Oh, I'm a lawyer. I do, but I meet my own client.
Am I not your client?
No, you're not my client. I'm an FDA expert.
Oh.
Cynthia Dapa Into said even if the CEO of Core FS was giving the CEO of the FDA the cedi equivalent of $100,000 as agreed, the amount would have been more than 500,000 cedis.
When are you leaving Accra?
Oh, I'm going back to Cape Coast.
Oh, Jesus Christ. No, so you can always come and pick it up. And I did this as a test. You see, you said you're bringing her 500 and bringing me the same, but you brought different amounts. So I was testing your honesty.
Well, in her injunction application, Mrs. Dapayan told the court to block the broadcast of the story while the substantive matter is determined. But in the court today, Justice William Wampong of the Accra High Court threw out her application, citing the media's right to publish. My colleague Manasseh Azuriahune, who produced this documentary, was in court and joins us in studio with more. Manasseh, first give us a brief background to this particular documentary.
Well, this documentary uncovered allegation that the woman in question, who was dismissed because of this documentary. At the time, she was the head of the legal affairs at the FDA, and she was demanding $200,000. And according to what we have, she asked that $100,000 be given to her and another $100,000 be given to the CEO of the FDA in order to facilitate some transactions. The Core FS, their drug was, or food supplement, had issues at the time. And so this was when the negotiation was taken. And in fact, she came back the following day to take 600,000 Ghana cedis. But as we would find in the documentary, she returned it because of certain reasons.
Okay. Well, today we have the green light to go ahead with the publication of that documentary. The judge cites media's right to publish. What are the reasons were cited?
The judge also mentioned that he saw a 30 minutes documentary, the one we attached to our defense, and also the 2-minute promo which the former FDA lawyer attached to her case. And he said the fact that the documentary had already been played on the radio, and also the media has been given specific role by the Constitution to inform the public. So he tried to balance between the woman or the former FDA lawyer's right to protect her reputation and also the right of the Ghanaian society to be heard or to be given information in the form of this documentary. And so after that, he also looked at the fact that in media or journalism, time is of the essence as to when stories can be aired. So when he balanced everything, he realized that in this case, the right of Ghanaians to be informed through this documentary outweighs the right to the woman's reputation. And even if she finds, or the court finds out that her reputation has been damaged without any cause, she can still be compensated through damages in the defamation suit she has filed.
And when is the documentary airing now?
Well, that would be decided by the management of the multimedia group, and we will inform our listeners accordingly.
Thank you very much, Manasseh, and good to see you. This is the Midday News here on Joy 99.7 FM. 1 dead and several others in critical condition after head-on collision involving a fuel tanker and 2 passenger vehicles on the Tema motorway. We'll take a quick break. When we return, we ask what makes some women want to date other people's husbands.
If they are hitting their 30s and above and they feel like, oh, I'm not getting married, then I'd rather go and chase a married man.
We say it in the local parlance there, aware oyinyuminyam. So people want part of that wonderful life that you now have. You find families pushing their daughters to date married men.
This bulletin is live in the Volta region on Jubilee Radio Keta, Volta Premier and Kekali Radio in Ho, Lolonyo FM in Hohoi, Pando FM in Pando, Fafa Radio in Joje, Radio Hogba in Angloga, Klenam Radio Bato, Victory FM Aplao. In the eastern region, we're on K Poly Radio in Kofrodia. In the northern region, we're on Bishara Radio, Radio 123 and Radio Justice in Tamale. And in Savannah region, we're on Inkelege FM in Bole. In the upper east region, we're live on A1 Radio and Dreams FM in Bogatanga and Radio Fumbese in Fumbese. In Upper West, we're live on Radio Sunmale in Wa, Radio Freed in Nandom, Radio Wa in Wa, and Bolu FM in Bolu. In the Bono East region, we're on Gaskia FM in Techiman. In Bono region, we're on Sky FM and Parrot FM in Sunyai. Central region, we're live on ATL FM in Cape Coast. And in the Western region, we're on Radio Max in Takrady.
Thanks for staying with us. Let's do sports. Mubarak.
Yes, MF, you recall in the early hours on Thursday, the Japanese Football Association confirmed that one member of the Black Meteors had tested positive for COVID-19. The remaining 18 players tested negative at the airport, and Saturday's friendly will come off as scheduled. Chairman of the Black Meteors Management Committee, Fred Champon, explains how beneficial the game is to Ghana.
Do not forget that we are hosting the All Africa Games in 2023, and we need to build a team, and this is the team that will compete for Ghana. We need to build a team from now, and so if you observe it, we're trying to promote the gold winning team of the U20, the AFCON U20 gold winning team, into the U23. Even though Japan invited us and Korea invited us, and we're coming to play them for them to prepare for the Olympic Games, we're also building our team towards the All Africa Games 2023. And here we have the first training we've just held here. We saw the commitment, the dedication, and so I have some faith in the players here.
To England, and the man who guided Chelsea into the top four as well as the Champions League is head coach Thomas Tuchel. He has extended his contract by 2 years. In Tuchel's 30 games in charge, there have been 19 triumphs and only 5 defeats for Chelsea. Obviously not a good story for Manchester United fans. That's a sports MFA.
Mind your own business. Thank you very much, Mubarak. Now, the second of 2 Rastafarian students earlier denied admission by Achimota School has finally been enrolled. Tyrone Iras Magai has been admitted as a science student and headed straight into the exam hall after admission processes at Achimota School has begun its end-of-term examination. Father of Tyrone Magai, Terrio Magai, says although his son has lost almost the entire term to study, he's confident he can still pass his exams.
Well, he was cool, because when we asked if he was going to take the exams, the director of studies asked me if I would like him to take the exams. And I said, yeah, we were going to try to, we would take it on, And we asked him, and he said, yeah, he's cool with it. We will try, Everybody was friendly, and the director of studies said nobody is against him, and the headmistress is a very nice person, and nobody's taking anything personal.
Well, my colleague Kweku Asante was at the school. He's joined me in studio. Kweku, was the reception for Tyrone similar to the others, the cheers received by his colleague Ohineba?
Right, so this morning was a bit different because this morning Achimota School has started exams, and so in school today, most of the students were already in the exam halls writing their exams, and so the response was a bit different. But Tyrone Iras Magai says he's confident that he can take these exams and he'll pass anyway.
Well, thank you, Kweku Asante. Interesting. He just walked into the exam hall. We'll see how it goes. Now, 4 schools will this afternoon lock horns in an intellectual battle to determine who qualifies to the next stage of the Love FM High School debate. There's more in this report.
The drama before the contest have been engaging and full of drama. The students have displayed wits, flair, critical thinking, and exciting stagecraft.
The current curricula were developed by the Curriculum Research and Development Division, CRDD, in September 2010. And in all these, the curricula for the various subjects, there is a stipulated time allocation designed by the curriculum developers in order to honor fidelity of implementation.
Well, later we'll be monitoring that. And the old wedding vow, I promise to be faithful and true, which is mostly recited by couples on their marriage day, is sometimes dinted by the intrusion of a third person. A woman decides to date the married man and a man decides to date a married woman. But why do people do this, especially when they still remain married? There's more in this.
Find families actively pushing their daughters to date married men because they know benefits that they'll be able to get.
If they are hitting their 30s and above and they feel like, oh, I'm not getting married, then I'll rather go and chase a married man.
We say it in the local parlance there, aware oyinyuminyam. So people want part of that wonderful life that you now have. There are women who would see a married man and then say that I'm attracted to you. I wouldn't mind having an affair with you, and don't worry, I won't tell your wife. I won't make anybody know. They just want that. Now, when it comes to the ladies who have it all, it's basically for adventure. And also, it's the adrenaline rush of knowing that, yeah, I can do this and then get away with it.
Well, some women there. But Joy Entertainment celebrates Trig-matic today across all our platforms. We're getting to know Trig. We're listening to his music, his hottest songs. And you get the opportunity to call all our radio and TV stations and request your favorite Trig-matic songs.
Celebrate is to, of course, bring attention to some of our marvelous musicians. And this Friday, we're setting all off. We're celebrating Trig-matic. Okay. It's music for us, by us. It's going to be on all our shows, all our platforms, all our Joy FM platforms. So throughout the day, you hear songs about Trig-matic. People are going to be calling in, telling us, their favorite Trig-matic songs and their favorite Trig-matic moments. Also, it's going to be the first Friday of every month.
Yes, I am an African.
Of course, we're celebrating Trig-matic today, Enoch Idreje. And that's it for the Midday News here on Joy 99.7 FM. And 216 people died in May alone. So far, 1,250 people have died from January to May. You ought to stay safe on our roads. And that's it for the Midday News. And thanks to our partners and affiliates across the breadth and length of this country, we're grateful. Wisdom, episode 10 with Pastor Mensah Otabil is up next. I am MFA Pau. Enjoy your weekend.
And I pray to Jah, He will protect I, take me out of these bars. And the word in the book kinda builds my hope, but these bad situations kinda make it hard to cope. I really thank God for bringing B up in my life. The only problem, she can't afford to be a broke wife.